2 seconds and I'm already crying. Oh my gosh, of course. My family is with me. Okay. My family is with me. My mom and my dad and my brother are here. Eh, 2 seconds and I'm already crying. Yeah, and they, I grew up, my dad's side of the family is Mennonite. And there's this video of me dressed as Mary Poppins walking around. My grandfather was a Mennonite preacher, and I'm dressed as Mary Poppins, and he's going, Mary, oh Mary, not obviously knowing that I'm a homosexual, like in the making. And they're not like putting it all together, but how funny it is that they're calling me Mary, dressed as Mary Poppins. But yeah, my mom let me dress up as Cinderella and Peter Pan, and they took me to see theater even though my parents are jocks, and my dad is a horse trainer, but they understood passion, because they're both quite passionate people, and so they saw that I was into something, and they let it flourish. And my teacher, Sue Fisher, is my 8th grade drama teacher. And at the tech rehearsal before our first performance, she pulled me aside after our first rehearsal and sat me down in the back row of the auditorium and said, "You got to pursue this as a career." And I was like, "What? I didn't know that you could really do it as a job." And I live in Pennsylvania. I couldn't understand what she was talking about. But she was the person that first told me that I could do it as a job. And then there was the Fulton Opera House, which is an amazing theater in Pennsylvania, and the Ephrata Performing Arts Center, EPAC, and I did community theater there and school theater, and go PA. The pure joy, inspiration, excitement, passion for the arts is a superpower. And if you can believe in it and follow it and harness it and trust it, it can change your life. And it has. I wouldn't need to tell him that because I guess he did it. So I would say, if I had to give him advice, I would say start meditating. Because I started doing that 2 years ago, and that really changed my life as well. But yeah, that feeling when you're young, it's what we sing about at the end of Merrily We Roll Along in the song Our Time. That feeling, I mean, everybody in this room has had that feeling because we live in New York. So I'm sure most of us came here from somewhere else. And that ambition and that passion is a life-changing superpower. They're all watching, or Gideon and Leah and Gallagher are all watching at Leah's house. And we just did our Spring Awakening reunion 2 years ago. And we made a documentary about it, and we all reconnected. And it was, we did that in November of 2021. And then in January of 2022, I got asked to do Merrily We Roll Along. And I watched Maria Friedman's production on YouTube. And Frank came out with the red folder. And over one shoulder was Charlie, which is exactly where John Gallagher stood as Moritz. And over the other shoulder was Mary, which is exactly where Leah Michelle stood. And it was these memory of these friends. And I was like, whoa, I just recreated that in the same position. And so there's been a lot of reflecting and remembering and appreciating of that Spring Awakening experience. That show changed my life. It inspired me to come out of the closet when I was 23 years old. I found who I was at that time, and that show changed my career and changed my life. And it felt essential to mention it, to mention everybody involved in that show, because it was so meaningful to me, and also because Merrily as a show, invites us all to touch that part of ourselves that we had inside of us when we were doing Spring Awakening. I mean, we were all at the theater today. I was like, Dan was like, "Are you not stressed?" And I was like, "I'm more ecstatic than stressed." He was like, "I'm gonna get a shirt that says that you can wear, because I'm stressed and you're ecstatic." Because to me, whether or not we were gonna win the awards, the fact that this show, this Stephen Sondheim masterpiece, is getting a new life 40 years later. It's unheard of and it's unparalleled in a show in this way. And so I felt like this morning we had already won, regardless of the awards. And the matinee today was lit, and getting to be on stage at the Tonys and with our whole cast, and then get to sing old friends and feel like we were standing in a living room with each other, not at the Tony Awards, was the most incredible like feeling of wow, you really can in a moment that's so big, you can feel that level of intimacy because the relationships are so deep. Theater saved my life. Theater like continues to change my life. There is something about doing 8 shows a week that's almost religious because you're repeating the same thing over and over again in front of an audience. So I learned this most first really during Spring Awakening. It was like, oh wow, when you get the opportunity to do great material for an audience, it starts to change you, like from a cellular, and especially if it's a musical, because of the vibrations of the music and the sound and everything, and so it means so much to me because it is life to me. Theater is life. I'm looking all the time for stuff for us. I'm always sending her plays. What would it be? Actually, now that I just said a play, maybe we would do a play together. I'd love to go off Broadway with her. I'd love to, because I'm really passionate about, and then they were mentioning a lot tonight about how many shows that were nominated tonight came from the off-Broadway community to the Broadway community. And post-pandemic, Broadway, we're getting back, but really it's those non-for-profit theaters and the off-Broadway theaters that need our love right now. So if I had my dream, I would scoop up Lea Michele and we would do a fierce off-Broadway play together. Some people will say, like, all of his bad choices, and I genuinely go, what bad choices? Maria Friedman, our director, she directed the piece I think it's no mistake that it took a female director to find the humanity and the love inside of all of these characters, to not make it cynical, to not make it just about the industry, but to focus on the friendships and the relationships. And she helped me learn that he's a person that lost touch with music, lost touch with his passion. And so that person is lost. That person is not bad. And so when we're in the first scene of the show, which is the end of the story, and it's quite coarse and vile, some of the things that we're throwing at each other and saying, it's coming from a deep place of pain and disconnect, as opposed to just surface villainousness. Like Beyonce says, playing victim and the villain at the same time. It's just trying to find the victim inside of the villain. After our first day of rehearsal on Broadway, we got a boat. We got a boat for the cast and the crew and everybody, and we went on a boat on the Hudson River, and it was like we had this beautiful experience off Broadway, and we had 7 months off, and we came back to the first day of rehearsal, and we knew we had this long road ahead of us, but because of that base feeling of like we all shared the bathroom off Broadway, so we all knew each other really well, and there was a lot of intimacy there. And then the first day of rehearsal, first day of school, getting to be back with each other was an amazing moment that I remember. But I feel like we're about to have a great moment in whenever I get to that party.
Thanks for watching my bwaySHO coverage of the 77th Annual Tony Awards. See you at the show.